Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and today I've got the top 5 reasons why you would choose a Google Pixel over an iPhone. And not only just the Google Pixel, but maybe another Android phone. There's some crossover here, but I have in front of me a Google Pixel XL and an iPhone 7 Plus, and I've just been torn as to which one to make my daily driver, which is why I've been talking about these thoughts and kind of running them through my head and wanting to put them out here in video form. For any of you who are torn like me between the two sides of the ocean, the iOS and the Android. So the first thing is Android in. And when I did my flip side of this video talking about the top 5 reasons why you would choose an iPhone over a Pixel, I didn't talk specifically about iOS because iOS is fine, it's okay, but it's not really that great. iOS is not the best software. It runs well within the Apple ecosystem and it works really well, but I'm just not a fan of it. It's just really plain and basic and locked down and nothing's new about it. So I didn't talk about it in that video. But Android, with Android in version 7.0, has a lot of really good features, and they're well put together features that I think are better thought out than what Apple has done with the iPhone. And let's start with talking about app organization. App organization on the iPhone is a disaster. I have never came across somebody else's iPhone where the apps were displayed well. What it reminds me of is a disorganized person's desktop computer. You know how their desktop has all these icons all over it? They don't seem to be in any organized manner. There's icons there, there's icons there, they're all over the place. And who knows why they're there? It's like a dump site for files. And that's what the iOS, what the home screens on an iPhone look like. Unless you get extremely organized like me and folder up all your stuff and make it, and spend a lot of time organizing, it's gonna look horrible. I can never find anything on anybody's phone when somebody asks me to help them with something on their iPhone. It just literally looks like a dump site of apps. On Android in, you have the nice kind of, pull up from the bottom. You have the app drawer that slides up. All your apps are organized in alphabetical order. You can easily swipe between them. You have the search at the top. It's just a very, very well put together experience for people who want to be able to maybe even have a lot of apps. I typically end up having a lot of apps installed. And just getting to apps on an Android device is easier and faster than it is on an iPhone. It's still just a mess. It's a broken, old experience that they need to update on the iPhone. Notifications also are a lot better and cleaner on Android than they are on the iPhone. When you pull down the notification bar on an iPhone, you get notifications and you also have widgets and you can kind of slide back and forth between the two. But for me, I like my widgets if I'm gonna use a widget on the home screen, which you can't do on an iPhone. And the notifications, when you pull down, they're all very similar and organized and easy to read. On an iPhone, they are cluttered, they look different depending on the app, and it's just not as clean of an experience. And I feel like when I'm scrolling through a long list of notifications that I have on Android, it's easier to see everything versus on an iPhone, I just want to clear them and get rid of them. It's just not as great of an experience with the notifications. There's also better notification actions on Android than there is on the iPhone, such as being able to quick reply, just do different things. Sure, some of those are starting to leak through on iOS, but it's just, there's more options and there's much more apps with more features coming through on Android when it comes to that. So, second thing is camera. Now, when I talked about the iPhone, the only thing that I really had good to say about the iPhone was the iPhone 7 Plus has the dual cameras, so you can do 2x zoom without really degrading your image. Now, the Pixel and Pixel XL only have one camera, so if you zoom at all, you are gonna get a little degraded quality, but my own testing and every other person out there that's put an iPhone and a Google Pixel up against each other have found that the Google Pixel's camera does a little bit better in both low light photography and overall clarity of image. When you zoom into the image to look at the finer details, you have a little bit more depth out of the camera that the Google Pixel has than the iPhone. So if camera is the only thing that matters to you, which it's a huge thing for me. It's not necessarily the only thing, but it's a huge thing for me. It really comes down to the Google Pixel having a better camera. Now, you can argue as to how much better it is. The iPhone has a great camera as well, and you can nitpick and say, oh, well, the iPhone they're really close to the same. But I have found in most of my situations that the Google Pixel XL and Google Pixel have a slightly better camera than the iPhone. All right, so the next thing is Google Assistant. Now, Google Assistant is light years better than Siri. Siri is a pain in the butt. Siri gets questions wrong all the time, has a hard time understanding what you're saying, and it's not just me. My wife is always mad at Siri. Everybody else that I know, it's like Siri is that horrible person who never understands you or gives you a straight answer. And that is just a very common thing with Siri, but it's not with Google and Google Assistant. So most phones these days are now getting Google Assistant. It was just a Google Pixel only thing. Now it's rolling out to other devices that have Android 7.0 on it. And then you also have, Google. So if you say, okay, Google, which my phone will wake up now, on most devices, even my watch woke up. And my computer. So everybody heard me say that, which is why I didn't want to say it. But anyways, all of the devices, it works really well. It always understands what I'm saying. It gives me better results. It gives me better information. Google Assistant or even Google Now or whatever you want to call it is light years better than Siri, and Siri has a lot of catching up to do. And I just really think that Apple doesn't have the data to be able to do it. I mean, we're all using Google for Google search and Google, all sorts of Google stuff, regardless of whether we're on an iPhone or an Android phone. So Google just has a ton more information and data than Apple has to work with. It's going to be hard for Siri to ever be as good as Google Assistant is becoming. So if that's important to you, it's definitely a major, major checkbox in the side of the Google Pixel over an iPhone, definitely. All right, so the fourth item is the overall Google ecosystem. Now, Google has a lot of products and they reach into a lot of different areas. And what's cool is that, regardless of what device you use, the Google ecosystem is actually pretty decent. But it is much better on Android because obviously it's their own platform. They have different integrations and there are elements of the iPhone that are locked down that Google's apps just can't integrate with. So the Google ecosystem is better on the Google Pixel XL, using Google Assistant, Google Now, using any of these apps, they jump back and forth between each other better. There's on iOS, you have the share sheet, which pops up and you're able to share between, different apps and stuff like that. But on Android, and especially with Android 7.0, the ability to share between applications and move files around and open images in one and share them on another, it's just much better of a process jumping between apps. I mean, I can take a photo, import it into the phone from my camera, or take the photo with my phone and then open it up in an app that I like to edit it in, and then move it over into another app that does better with adding text, and then share it on Instagram, all without having to save the image and then open it in another app. I could literally share it, bump and jump between the different apps. It just works. And on iOS, it's always kind of a broken process, and it takes much more time to set it up and make all of that work. And you end up saving the image and then opening it, and you end up with different versions of your image, and it's always kind of been a pain in the butt. Whereas on the Google Pixel and with the overall Android experience, in that Google ecosystem, it's just much better process. So, there's a lot of little benefits and stuff there, I think, that are part of that good Google ecosystem. Google does have their apps, Google branded apps that work great on the iPhone. And there's even been times where I felt maybe certain aspects of those apps worked a little bit better on the iPhone. Google has done a good job of supporting the iPhone with their apps, but the overall ecosystem is a little bit better on Android, and specifically with this Google Pixel XL here, it's just a better overall experience. And of course it is. It's Google. With Apple and their specific apps, with pages and numbers and stuff, you're shoehorned into their platform, and those apps don't work anywhere else. And a lot of other apps just flat out don't open their files. You have to export them to a specific format, which is kind of a bummer. You don't get that on Android with Google's platform and Google's ecosystem. You get much more shareable stuff, which is overall better, I think, just for usability purposes. So the last thing is customization. I mean, that's the number one thing that people say is, oh, I'm going to choose Android because you can customize and all this stuff. And for some people, I would believe that. For other people, I don't think that they're maybe creative enough to customize to the point where they couldn't do what they're wanting to do on an iPhone. But it's really true, though. There is a lot more customization available on Android, down to simple things like adding home screen widgets and laying out your home screen with the kind of information that you want, where you can't do that on an iPhone. The app, your home screens are locked. They don't do anything other than let you move icons around and put them in folders. So there's that. But then there's also the ability to customize your home screen. There's different launchers that you can install to give the user experience, the UI of your phone, a completely different look and functionality. So there's just so much that you can do with your Android phone. And yes, there's some things you can do if you jailbreak your iPhone. There's some things you can do, but that's still really risky, and it disables a lot of good security features and potentially opens you up for issues, and most of the time disables Apple Pay. So jailbreaking your phone is really sketchy still, even though it's came a long way. It's still something that I don't really recommend. And you just don't really need to root your Android phone anymore these days to customize heavily either. There's so many things that you can do with the Android ecosystem that allows you to customize and get all of the features and different things that you want into your Android phone without having to go to that extreme measure. So customization is definitely a huge thing that Android has over iOS. And that's going to do it, I think, for our top 5. I mean, I can go on exhaustively as to why, you might choose one versus the other. It really comes down to what are the individual features that you're looking for? How do you plan to use your device? Do you like the iPhone and its kind of single style? I mean, you buy one iPhone, you can change its color, but you can't really do too much else. With Android, I mean, sure, we're here talking about the Google Pixel XL, but there's so many different Android phones, and all of them have different flavors of Android that have different features and stuff like that. So there's almost something for everyone in the world of Android. So let me know what you think. Are you like me? Do you have multiple devices? Are you an iPhone and Android user? I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you use iPhone and Android and which you prefer, and maybe how that's changed over the years. I know for me, Android was always that phone that I had that was more of a toy. I couldn't use it as a serious device because the cameras weren't that good. There weren't that many apps. The iPhone was always my main device, but now it's kind of flipped where, a lot of times, the majority of the time I'm on Android, and I have my iPhone simply so that I can access some of those apps that aren't available and stuff like that. So that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to check out the other video where I give the top 5 reasons why I think you should choose an iPhone over the Google Pixel. Give us a subscribe here to our channel on YouTube, and you'll get notified when we put out new videos. They'll show up in your subscription list. Make sure not to miss anything that we're putting out here on State of Tech. So that's going to do it. We hope to see you here soon on State of Tech in one of our next videos. Thanks a lot, and take care.